A new Washington Post poll shows that President Joe Biden's approval rating is 50%. That's consistent with other polls. And by the way, that's a number that former President Trump never achieved. But there are a couple of nagging issues that drag his popularity steadily lower every time a new poll comes out. For instance, according to the Washington Post, 51% of Americans disapprove of the way that President Biden is handling the crisis at the southern border. Only 33% approve. Biden painted himself into a political corner when he reversed several of Donald Trump's border policies on his first day in office. Since then, immigrants have been crossing the southern border illegally at a record level. At the pace it's going now, we could see over 2 million apprehensions by the end of the year, crushing the all-time record. Apprehensions is the only measure we have of illegal immigrations because obviously we can't account for those who aren't apprehended. And now the Biden administration is talking about reopening the border to legal crossings. The border was closed down to legal crossings in the early days of the pandemic by the Trump administration to stop the spread of COVID-19. You're going to hear a lot about Title 42 on the news because the Trump administration used Title 42 of the Public Health Act to close the border. Now, if we had record crossings since the beginning of the year with Title 42 in place, what's it going to look like when they lift Title 42? According to Politico, allies of President Biden are concerned that if he lifts Title 42, it will cause the Democrats to lose both the House and the Senate in the midterm elections. 53% of American voters say they are less likely to vote for a Democrat if there's an increase of migrants at the border. That poll was commissioned by the National Republican Senate Committee, which just means you're going to see a barrage of Republican ads in the months to come blasting Democrats in vulnerable states and districts for not doing enough to secure the border. It is why Republican governors in a dozen states are sending law enforcement and National Guard troops to the border in Texas and Arizona to do the job they say the president refuses to do. Now, to give you an idea of the political corner the president has painted himself into, remember that when he was running for president, he promised that if you make your way into this country and you don't commit a crime, you won't get sent back.
Should someone who is here without documents, and that is his only offense, should that person be deported?
That person should not be the focus of deportation. We should fundamentally change the way we deal with them.
That message was taken by millions of people in Central America and Mexico as an invitation to get into the country any way they could. And that message was taken by the League of Latin American Citizens, the most powerful and largest immigration activist group in the country, that Joe Biden is sympathetic to a more open border. So when several Republican governors made the announcement that they were sending the National Guard to the border to help with border security, the League of Latin American Citizens sent a letter to the White House asking President Biden to stop them, saying the Republican governors were racists. The letter read in part that in Texas, we are being invaded by governors from a defeated Confederacy who are arming the border against brown women and children escaping persecution, hunger, and death. All right, well, first of all, Ohio, South Dakota, North Dakota, Idaho, Iowa were never part of the Confederacy. And the vast majority of people crossing the border are not women and children.
Most people coming in are single adults. There are some criminals, no ifs and buts, gang members. Nobody talks about any of those things that we see. Nobody talks about stash houses. Nobody talks about the landowners, the ranchers that I have. Hispanic owners that have been here for generations that are all of a sudden seeing people coming in into their property and destroying property and their property there at the ranch. Nobody talks about that.
That was Henry Cuellar, a Democratic Latino congressman in Texas who has been very critical of President Biden's immigration policies. If President Biden doesn't do more to secure the border, more than this photo op with Vice President Kamala Harris, then more and more Democratic congressmen and women will break from the administration. Right now, the administration seems paralyzed, not knowing what to do, with Latino groups on one side pressuring for less border security and Democratic members of Congress in vulnerable districts saying you have to do something about a growing border crisis. The administration has already signaled that they are going to lift Title 42, and there will undoubtedly be a greater surge and a greater border crisis. But beyond that, the administration seems like they don't know what to do. I'm Larry Menti. We'll talk again soon.